What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron. Today I'm going to do the ultimate smart button comparison where I look at many different smart buttons for Home Assistant and show you which ones I think are the best. Recently I've been trying to figure out which smart button or smart remote is best for my smart home, but it's hard to know because there's so many options out there and you really don't know how they're going to work until you test them out. I decided to buy a bunch of different smart buttons and remotes from a bunch of different brands and test them out for you guys. I'll compare their prices and features and also give you some ideas of how you can use them around the house. Make sure you stay around to the end of the video so you can see which one I recommend. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Okay, so I have 4 requirements for smart button. First, they have to be compatible with Home Assistant. Next, they cannot require a hub. The third requirement is that they have to be under 50 bucks. The fourth requirement is that the button needs to be available on Amazon.com or Walmart. There may be some popular buttons that you've used that are not in this video, and that's because they didn't meet one of these 4 requirements. Okay, let's start by looking at single button smart buttons. The first one I want to look at is the Sonoff wireless smart switch. This is one of the cheapest of all of the buttons that I'm looking at in this video. For some reason it's larger than I thought it would be, and it has a sharp square design that is not too comfortable in the hand. It has an interesting but hardly noticeable fingerprint design on the front of the switch, which is not a fingerprint reader and actually doesn't do anything. It's aesthetic only. The entire body of the switch acts as a button, so you're depressing the face of the button when you press it. This makes it so that you can accidentally press the button without realizing it, like if you're just picking it up, which is kind of annoying. And sometimes clicks aren't always registered. It comes with adhesive backing so it can be stuck under a table or desk, and it would be easy to press without looking. This Sonoff button uses Zigbee communication, so it was super easy to pair with Home Assistant via ZHA. So this button has 3 actions or automation triggers that can be used, but in order to use these in Home Assistant via ZHA, you have to install a blueprint. Once I did that, the device worked as expected, allowing me to trigger routines with a single press, double press, and hold. The next one I want to look at is the Aqara smart button. This button is one of the most popular among Home Assistant users as far as I've seen. It's about the same size as the Sonoff, but it is thinner and way better looking. It features rounded corners, which makes it way more comfortable to hold than the Sonoff, and it has the modern gray and white coloring and a perfectly round button in the middle of it. This smart button uses Zigbee protocol for communication, and although the description on Amazon says that an Aqara hub is required, that's not the case. I've paired many Aqara devices with Home Assistant using ZHA with no issues. This one was no different. You know, another advantage that this one has over the Sonoff button that we just looked at before is that this one features 4 actions in Home Assistant. So you have a single press, double press, hold, and release. Each of those things can be used to trigger automations in Home Assistant. Another beauty of this switch is that there's no need to install a blueprint to get it to work. As soon as it's integrated, you can start setting up automations. In a previous video, I showed an automation where I have an NFC tag on my nightstand, and I can trigger a nighttime routine with it. As an alternative to using the NFC tag, I took this Aqara button and put it on my nightstand. It provides a great way to control my master bedroom light, the master bedroom night light, as well as triggering the routine that sets the nighttime scene in my house. At $4 more than the Sonoff, it's really hard to recommend a Sonoff over this one. The next one I want to look at is the SmartThings Button. SmartThings Button is widely used across home automation communities, not just with Home Assistant, but also with SmartThings, as the name would imply. It's solid white design with that little rounded square symbol in the center that literally does nothing. Really gives it a unique look that is recognized by many people. This button uses Zigbee communication as well and is easily paired with ZHA. Once paired, no blueprint required, you can start using it right away. It supports 3 actions, a single press, a double press, and a hold. But it has a feature that none of the other buttons in this video do, and that is it has a temperature sensor. The temperature sensor is immediately available in Home Assistant once it's paired. This button has been sitting in my office for quite a while, and I use it to control the lighting scenes in my office as well as track the temperature. At $30, you're certainly getting what you pay for with this button. The next button is the Shelly Button1. This button is very unique compared to the rest of the buttons for a few reasons. You can get it in either white or black, and it has an LED indicator ring around the button. It also has a built-in rechargeable battery and the option to power via micro USB. The button is also IPX5 certified, so a little sweat or rain isn't gonna hurt it. The button also has a hole in the corner which allows you to add a key ring to it. This button is also different than the rest because it uses Wi-Fi communication. Although I don't actually prefer Wi-Fi smart home devices, this one has an advantage because you can trigger automations when you're not on your home Wi-Fi network. As long as you're somewhere that has Wi-Fi, you can trigger the automations. However, this requires a button to be connected to the Shelly cloud, which I know is an automatic no for some people. The setup process for this button was a little tedious, but it's clearly described in a video on the Shelly YouTube channel. Once it's connected to the Shelly app, it should be automatically discovered by Home Assistant, but if it's not, you could add it via the Shelly integration. In Home Assistant, 4 automation triggers are available without the need for installing a blueprint. However, this is where the fun stopped for me because I was having all kinds of issues with the device falling asleep. The button was not responsive because it had to take time to wake up before it could be used. Tapping the button after not having used it for a while caused the LED ring to flash white for quite a while before finally turning green. Once it was green, then I could press the button and it would trigger my automations. The only way I was finding to stop this button from going to sleep was to connect it via micro USB and give it power continuously, which kind of defeats the purpose of the button. However, I noticed there was a firmware update that was required, and I saw that the previous firmware was from sometime in 2020. So when I updated the firmware, immediately it started acting a lot more responsive. When the button has been sitting idle for a while and you press the button, it still takes about 2 seconds before the automation is triggered. That still is a bit long in my opinion, especially comparing it to some of these other devices. And it may be expected for a Wi-Fi device, but it's not really worth it for me to have something that has that kind of delay. The Fibaro The Button is the next one I looked at. It's definitely one of the most unique of all the smart buttons I've used. It's styled to look like an emergency button, but it can be integrated with Home Assistant and used to trigger automation. Even though it has largely negative reviews on Amazon, that unique plunger style push button look made me have to get one anyway. It has a variety of bright colors that you can choose from, and it also comes with an adhesive sticker for the back so you can stick it to a surface of your choice. The button uses the Z-Wave protocol and easily pairs with Home Assistant via Z-Wave JS. With a blueprint, the button is capable of 7 actions: single press, double press, triple press, quadruple press, 5x, held, and released. Because of its appearance, it actually might be best used as an emergency button. If you have someone elderly living in your home and you want to be able to trigger an automation that alerts you if they've fallen or if they need help, they could press the button and you could set up an automation that sends an audio alert to all your smart speakers letting you know that they need assistance. The only issue I had with this button was that the blueprint that was available on the Blueprint Exchange did not include the held and released options for triggering automations. So I actually took the blueprint, modified it, and I posted it on the Blueprint Exchange, and I'll link that in the description. The only other issue I had with it is that it takes a non-standard battery. It's not a coin battery like most of them, which is annoying when you're trying to minimize how many different batteries you have in your drawer. Overall, it's a little bit pricey just for having this unique look, but it's kind of up to you if you think it's worth it. Next, let's look at the multi-button remotes that I've chosen. The first one is the Hank 4-key scene controller. It's an impressively priced Z-Wave device that has 3 equally sized buttons surrounding a center button. One of the buttons has a moon and star on it, one has 2 people, and one appears to be an I/O or on/off symbol. And the 4th one is directly in the middle, it just has a circle on it. Honestly, I'm kind of confused as to what these buttons mean or are for. Probably would have been better if they just didn't put anything on them. But anyway, the button has a clean and simple look to it, but it kind of feels a bit cheap. And when you press on the buttons, they kind of depress a different amount. and it just kind of feels cheapo. The battery is rechargeable and can be charged via micro USB. As I mentioned, this is a Z-Wave device, and it paired pretty much instantly with Home Assistant via Z-Wave JS. However, each button only has a press and a hold, and you have to install a blueprint in order to use it. The next remote is the Ikea Trådfri remote, which is pretty popular among smart homers. Although this Zigbee remote is made to be used with the Ikea Trådfri hub and used with their other Ikea Trådfri devices, it can be used directly with Home Assistant without the need of the hub. This remote feels very high quality, the nicest feeling of all the remotes and buttons I'm reviewing in this video. The round button in the center with the 4 equally sized buttons surrounding it and the white and gray combo give it a really modern look that only Ikea can manage. The front of the button is white with a matte finish, and the icons on the buttons are easy to see. The back is a gray rubberized surface that's grippy in the hand and doesn't slide easily on surfaces. The feel of it makes you want to keep picking it up for some reason. It also comes with a wall plate that you can mount to the wall, and then the remote is held onto the plate magnetically. The remote has 5 buttons: a brightness up, brightness down, a left, right, and an on-off button. As I understand it, this is typically used with a Trådfri bulb or set of bulbs, and the brightness up and down and power control the bulb, and then the left and right buttons allow you to select which bulb you want to control. However, in Home Assistant, each of these buttons are automatically available for use in Home Assistant to trigger automation. There are a total of 10 actions, a single press and a hold for each button on this remote. That's more actions than any of the other buttons or remotes we've looked at. The pairing of this device with ZHA and Home Assistant was not exactly straightforward. The instructions mentioned holding the pairing button, which is found under the battery cover, for 10 seconds in order to get it to be recognized. That didn't work for me, so I Googled around and I found someone who said that if you press the button 4 times quickly, it will allow it to be paired. When I did this, a hidden LED on the front middle button lit up, indicating that it was pairing, and sure enough, it showed up in ZHA without any further issues. If you want to use this remote kind of like it was intended, where it controls a single light and you can control the brightness up and down and the power on and off with the middle button, there is a blueprint available by Frank on the Blueprint Exchange that you can download and install. At around 25 bucks, this remote is a steal. The next one is the Aeotec NanoMote Quad. This Z-Wave remote is a very unique device featuring 4 buttons. There are 3 buttons around the edges and a single button in the middle. It kind of bothers me that the 3 buttons aren't equally sized, but a cool feature is that each button has raised nubs on them. The top button has a single raised nub, the bottom left has 2, and the bottom right has 3. These nubs help you know by feel which button you're touching. This is pretty awesome because if you're in the dark or the remote's in your pocket, you don't have to be able to see the remote to know which button you're pressing. This button also has a rechargeable battery that can be charged via the micro USB port. It also comes with a keychain loop that you can attach by taking off the battery cover and then slipping the loop through the hole underneath the cover. It seems like they designed it as something that can be carried around with you in your pocket or on your keyring, and I can see this being pretty useful with those raised nubs. Adding this device to Home Assistant via Z-Wave JS was extremely easy and straightforward, but you do need to install a blueprint if you want to be able to use this remote. Once installed, there are 8 actions, a single press and a hold for each of the 4 buttons. Since Z-Wave has a bit longer range than Zigbee, this could be used in your car as a garage door opener remote if you have a smart garage door opener but you don't have a remote in your car. I set button 1 to open and close both garage doors, and I set button 2 for the left garage door and button 3 for the right garage door. The center button I set up to toggle the garage lights. This has worked super well and I can see using this regularly. The next one is kind of a bit of an oddball. This Tuya 4-gang Zigbee switch can be found on Amazon, sold by multiple sellers. It seems like one of those products that's rebranded and sold by a bunch of different people. Despite this, the remote is pretty cool. It's easily the largest of all the remotes I'm looking at in this video, and it has 4 large, easy to press buttons. It has adhesive strips for the back, and it's clearly meant to be adhered to the wall or other flat surface. I ordered this one specifically because I saw a video by Smart Home Solver where he used a Broadlink button as a toddler remote. However, the Broadlink button requires a hub, this one doesn't. Large stickers or pictures can be put onto each of these buttons so that a kid can know which button does what. I decided to use this button with my projector setup. In a previous video, I showed how I automated my projector setup using the Broadlink RM4 Pro. Now the kids have a button that's mounted to the projector cart that can be used to trigger these automations, setting up the projector and shutting it down. This remote was meant to be used with the Tuya Zigbee hub and the Tuya app. It can be set up with Home Assistant. However, I found this to be a pain. I ended up having to install a custom ZHA quirk that somebody made in order to get these button presses to be recognized. This process was a bit complicated, and I can't say I recommend this to a beginner. On top of that, instead of the 12 actions that were advertised, there's only 6. The left 2 buttons each only register a single press, and the 2 right buttons register a single press and a hold. That's not even close to the 12 that I expected. Although the Switch only costs 27 bucks, I really can't recommend this one, and I'm really considering returning it. I'll leave a link to the GitHub pull request related to this Switch if you want to get that Zigbee quirk and install it. Okay, so here's the last button I've tested with Home Assistant, and it's also the cheapest of them all. The remote had pretty poor reviews, and it seemingly was mostly because it didn't work with its own ecosystem, but I ordered it. When I got it, I added it via ZHA. A quick Google search showed me that there's no blueprint for it for ZHA, although apparently there is one for Zigbee 2 MQTT. So I did what any smart homer would do. I made it work. I actually spent way too much time on this little remote, but I actually wrote a blueprint that allows the remote to function somewhat normally. Hardware-wise, this remote has 5 buttons. It also has a magnetic wall plate like the Trådfri remote. The wall plate has holes for screws as well as some sticky tape for the back. This device was made to control a single or a group of RGBW bulbs. The blueprint I wrote allows it to do this. You can add the entities you want to control, and then you select the mode that you want to adjust. There are 3 modes: brightness, color, and color temperature. You can cycle through the modes with the left button and then use the up and down arrows to adjust them. They're only preset settings. It's kind of archaic, and I think it'd be great if someone in the Home Assistant community could make this blueprint a little bit better. Unfortunately, I was not able to see any events that the right button was actually sending, so that does nothing. So an example of how you could use this is for a bunch of lamps in a room that all have smart bulbs. You can use this remote to control all of them at the same time, adjusting the brightness, the color, etc. Since this is only a $10 Switch, it might be worth you picking it up and just using this blueprint, and hopefully some other people develop the blueprint better. Or you can use it with Zigbee to MQTT. Alright, so I'm going to give you what I think are my favorites. For single buttons, I recommend the Aqara button as the best option for a budget device. The low price combined with the ease of use and the modern look makes it a no-brainer, and that's why it's so popular in the Home Assistant community. If you're looking for the best bang for your buck, I would suggest the SmartThings Button. The quality feel of it, as well as that extra temperature sensor, makes it a no-brainer and definitely worth the price. For multi-button remotes, I would 100% recommend the Ikea Trådfri remote. That remote is perfect in every way, and the price of 25 bucks is hard to beat. On top of that, it's got more actions than any of the other remotes that I reviewed in this video. A runner-up to that one would be the Aeotec NanoMote Quad, which, although it has fewer buttons, has those raised nubs which make it super useful, surprisingly so. Since it uses Z-Wave protocol, the ability to use it as a garage door open has been very useful to me. And here are the ones I would not recommend. First is the Shelly Button1, and I'm sorry Shelly fans, but the fact that I have to wait 2 seconds before my action happens after I've pressed the button because the device has to wake up is just unacceptable to me, especially for the price of the button. It doesn't have enough other features to make me really want to go for it. I don't need IPX5, and I don't need an LED ring on my button. Next, the Hank Z-Wave 4-button scene controller. This remote really has nothing special to offer except for that it's pretty cheap for a Z-Wave device. Since there are other remotes out there like the Aeotec or the Trådfri, I really have no use for this one. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. If you want to see a bit more information about all these devices, I am going to have a written version of this review. I can't promise when it'll be up, but as soon as I can. In the description and in that written version, you'll find links to all the blueprints that I've used for these devices. If you've enjoyed this video or it's helped you decide which button you should buy, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more stuff like this. If there's one I missed that was an obvious choice, or if you have any cool ideas for smart buttons that you think I might enjoy, please leave them in the comments. I want to hear about them. I'm going to be doing more reviews like this, as well as automation idea videos and guides with home assistant stuff. So please consider subscribing and press the bell if you want to be notified when new videos are uploaded. Anyway, smart homers, thanks for watching. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Press start.